So I have been trying to render this video for so much. I don't know if I'm gonna upload it. If you're watching this video, it clearly was uploaded to YouTube. I'm gonna have a little disclaimer here. This video was recorded on Friday, the day before the Xfinity playoff opener at Las Vegas. So if you guys see anything that is outdated, if you guys hear me say anything that's outdated in this video, then of course there's a reason why couldn't upload this video until now. So there you go. So before we jump into the actual playoff predictions, let's review my preseason predictions for the Xfinity Series. I said before at the start of the season that the Xfinity Series playoffs was gonna be a bit easier to predict because there are only like 10 good teams in this series, 11 if you want to count Ryan Sieg, and that spot number 12 was basically up for grabs between some small teams. Now, I originally predicted Jesse Little to make the playoffs, but of course, guy was just nowhere to be seen. Instead, Brandon Brown made the playoffs, so I got that one wrong. But hey, 11 of 12 right. It's nothing to be ashamed about. I knew for a fact that the Xfinity playoffs were gonna be very easy to predict, and that's gonna be a theme throughout this video. I am pretty confident in my Xfinity Series prediction, so let's get right into it. Okay, Xfinity Series playoff predictions. Now I'm gonna say this, I said it before, I'll say it again. These playoffs are very easy to predict for me because honestly, I've had like 11 teams making the playoffs already, and then there was just a 12th guy that was just out there as a field filler. But the point is, there were 11 teams that people thought were pretty much playoff locks, and then the 12th spot was up for grabs. So if I had to pick one of the series where I got everything right, where I got my entire playoff bracket right, it will be the Xfinity Series. So let's get right into it. Round of 12, Las Vegas, Talladega, Charlotte, Roval. The first driver I got eliminated is Brandon Brown. Now Brandon Brown basically is just a field filler of these playoffs. He just got there, he's just there because there needs to be 12 drivers in the playoffs, and that's no knock on him. I mean, I think this is going to be beneficial for Brandon Brown in the long term. Being in the playoffs is going to allow him to get that experience and that taste of playoff action and playoff intensity, and I believe that's gonna improve his team and improve himself as a driver. I mean, look what being in the 2017 playoffs did to Jeremy Clements. I know he didn't do much, but I'll say Jeremy Clements has actually improved compared to what he was in 2017. So I believe in the coming years we're going to see something similar to Brandon Brown. He's going to be competing for top 10s, top 5s, the occasional win. And Brandon Brown is way younger than Jeremy Clements, I believe. I don't know by how young he is, but I know he's younger than him. So I believe he could actually have a better career than Jeremy Clements, provided of course that he wins a race, but I think he will in the coming years. I don't know how, I don't know when, but I believe it will. So the next guy I got out is Ryan Sieg. I know I said there were 11 teams that were gonna be in the playoffs, but Ryan Sieg is like the 11th guy because the other 10 drivers are driving for upper echelon teams, for top tier teams. Ryan Sieg is the only guy that, even though it's clear that he was gonna make the playoffs, he's also driving for a small team like Brandon Brown, even though his small team is like a multi-car team. But that's besides the point. Now Ryan Sieg has clearly improved, has been one of the most improved drivers in the past few years as far as the Xfinity Series is concerned, and I'll give him a bit more of a chance than Brandon Brown to make it to round of 8. And he could clearly pull off the upset, but I just think there are a few drivers that could actually have more of a chance than Ryan Sieg to actually sneak into round of 8. Next up, we have Riley, aka Terrible Hurst. What I hate about all this situation is just how a lot of people wrote off Riley Hurst the moment Joe Gibbs signed him because he was too inexperienced. And of course, those concerns are pretty valid. As talented as Riley Hurst is, he's pretty inexperienced, and that has really showed in his rookie season. But of course, driving for Joe Gibbs Racing means that you're guaranteed a playoff spot 99% of the time. And of course, I think this is going to be very beneficial for Riley Hurst. Even if he gets eliminated in the round of 12, he's going to get the experience, and he's going to be able to run it back for another season. Now granted, I know how Joe Gibbs Racing can be with his young drivers. It can be a bit cutthroat. But with the money that Riley Hurst brings to the table, I believe he's going to be able to stick around for a few years like a Brandon Jones. And I believe that's going to allow him to run it back and compete for wins next season. And finally, the last driver that got eliminated in the round of 12 is Michael Annett. Now Michael Annett, when I looked at his stats, I found out that Michael Annett's stats after 26 races are pretty similar to the ones he had last year at that point. And that's really funny because I thought that Michael Annett had regressed this season. Now, of course, he hasn't had as good of a season as he had last year because last year he won a race. But of course, I thought that he was really struggling this season. He really isn't. And of course, a lot of that has to do with the fact that he actually had a great, he closed out the regular season pretty good. He scored a few top 10s and occasional, I think he scored a top 5 in there as well in the last few races leading up to the playoffs. And because of that little surge of momentum, I believe that Michael Annett has a chance to actually sneak into round of 8 and knock one of these guys out. Of course, he's gonna need some outside help in the form of somebody having a bad first round to the point that they get eliminated. It's happened before, and it will happen again. So keep your eyes out for Michael Annett. Next up, we go to round of 8, Kansas, Texas, and our first trip at Martinsville since that one-off trip they had in 2006. It's good to see Martinsville back in the Xfinity schedule. I don't know why they stopped running there, but that's besides the point. First driver I got on the round of 8 is Justin Hayley, Mr. Getting Lucky, Mr. Being at the right place at the right time. And of course, Justin Hayley has really been at the right place at the right time for. That's been basically his calling card, being at the right place at the right time. Now, do I think that would translate into the playoffs? I don't think so, because in the playoffs, drivers are prone to making much less mistakes than in the regular season. So that's why I don't think Justin Hayley has. I'm not giving Justin Hayley much of a chance to make it to the championship for that, and the fact that Justin Hayley relies way too much on other drivers making mistakes to win. We have seen it ever since the Truck Series. Justin Hayley puts himself at the right place at the right time, but he's not an aggressive driver. He's not gonna make aggressive moves. He's just gonna wait for the drivers up front to screw up and win. And in the playoffs, that's a pretty unreliable strategy. You just gotta drive aggressively like his teammate Ross Chastain has. Now, of course, Ross Chastain has not won any races, but I can say this. Ross Chastain has contended for way more wins than Justin Hayley has this season, even though he hasn't won any. And I believe that's really gonna matter in the playoffs because eventually you're gonna win a race. If Justin Hayley doesn't drive aggressively enough, like his teammate Chastain has, I'm not giving him much of a chance to win. I'm not giving him much of a chance to make it to the championship for Phoenix. I'm sorry, but that's just how it is. And it's really bad because I really like Justin Hayley and the season he's really had, but I think at some point the run's gotta stop there. You can't just rely on luck every time, dude. The next guy I got out is Harrison Burton. Now Harrison Burton looked like a surefire Championship 4 contender early on with that win at Fontana and then at Homestead. But ever since, he has clearly cooled off. I know he started off the season with like 10 straight top 10s, but something like that. But ever since, he has cooled off, and he hasn't even been in contention for wins anyways. So he's gone from a surefire Championship 4 guy to round of 8 exit. And to be fair, I will give Justin Hayley more of a chance to make it to a Championship 4 than Harrison Burton, but that's simply because Justin Hayley is just lucky as hell. But yeah, even I will give Justin Hayley more of a chance to make it to a Championship 4 than Harrison Burton is. To me, Harrison Burton is just like the Brandon Brown of the round of 8. There just needs to be someone to complete the playoff grid. And honestly, I believe that Harrison Burton is just a guy, is just a throw-in in the round of 8. And that's just really tough for me to say that because he got such a great start to the season, but he has regressed ever since, and he's been pretty, I wouldn't say inconsistent, but he hasn't been as dominant as he was before, or as consistent. I wouldn't say inconsistent, just a bit less consistent. The results haven't showed for it one way or another, so yeah, that's it. That's just all I have for him. And speaking of Joe Gibbs Racing, yeah, I got Brandon Jones there as well. I know a lot of people don't want to admit it because Brandon Jones, rich father and all that. Drivers have a lot of grudge against drivers with rich fathers. I really don't understand that, but a lot of people won't admit it, but Brandon Jones has had a breakout season. And honestly, it's pretty great to see Brandon Jones finally shut out the haters. He beat Kyle Busch at Phoenix, then he beat a red-hot Austin Cindric at Kansas, and then he took advantage of Ross Chastain just being too aggressive for the win to sneak off a win at Darlington. Yeah, I gotta say, Brandon Jones is really, he has not only made less mistakes, but he has also put himself in a position to win races. And unlike Justin Hayley, he's actually been aggressive. So, now, do I give Brandon Jones a chance to make it to Phoenix? No. I said that Brandon Jones has been a bit more consistent, but not quite. He's still not as consistent yet as I would have liked him to be. And of course, I mean, Kansas is on this round, so and we all know how good Brandon Jones is at Kansas. Maybe he could win there, but I wouldn't bet on it. Putting all of your hopes into one basket doesn't really go well. Doesn't necessarily go well. We have seen that before, and it has really cost a lot of drivers their playoff runs. And the final driver that I got eliminated in the round of 8, and I had a pretty tough time deciding this, but in the end, it had to be Noah Gragson. Now, Gragson is a bit similar to Harrison Burton, but not quite, in the sense that Gragson scored 2 wins early in the season and then cooled off. However, unlike Harrison Burton, Noah Gragson, even though he has only 2 wins, he has actually competed for wins. He did not cool off like Harrison Burton and just stuck to getting top 5s and top 10s. No. Noah Gragson has actually competed for wins more often than not. It's just that he hasn't been able to get the job done unlike early on in the season. However, I just think that the Championship 4 is too solid to just for Gragson to just displace one of them. You could say Chastain because he hasn't won a race, and because of that he lacks playoff points. But I have faith in Ross Chastain. I believe he's gonna win a race sometime in the playoffs, and I believe he's gonna get a few playoff points to match there. Maybe a handful of stage wins as well. Maybe I have a lot of faith on Ross Chastain. Who knows? But I mean, the man has been so consistent. It's hard for me to believe that he still hasn't won a race. And yeah, with that out of the way, we got our championship 4 that are gonna go to Phoenix. Of course, we got Austin Cindric and Chase Briscoe, who got pretty much played cat and mouse with each other all season long. Then Justin Allgaier, who had a late season surge towards the end of the regular season. He won back-to-back races at Richmond, and I believe before those Richmond races, I had Allgaier as a round of 8 exit. I had Noah Gragson in the championship 4 over Allgaier, but after Allgaier won those back-to-back races at Richmond, I believe Allgaier has regained his momentum. I believe Allgaier is primed for a return to the championship 4. I believe that Allgaier is back to being the best guy at JR Motorsports. And I believe he's going to show it in this playoffs by going to the championship 4. And finally, of course, Ross Chastain, which I still have pretty high faith in him, even though I shouldn't have, because if he doesn't win a race soon, he might disappoint me, and I don't want Ross Chastain to disappoint me, because he's been one of my favorite drivers to watch in this Xfinity season. And so, of these 4 drivers, who do I think will make it to the who do I think will win the championship? It's pretty obvious who it is. It's Chase Briscoe. The man just dominated the. I know he didn't win the regular season championship, but for most of the season, Briscoe has just looked dominant. I know a lot of you are gonna say Cindric. And if you guys say Cindric, honestly, I wouldn't blame you. I mean, Austin Cindric has a tendency to get red hot. Like we saw him winning like 5 or 6 races. If it wasn't for Brandon Jones, Austin Cindric would have won 6 straight races in the month of July. Somewhere in July, between July and August, which is crazy to think about. But I'm gonna go with the more consistent pick, and I'm gonna go with Chase Briscoe just because he has been all around better all season long. Sure, Austin Cindric may have won the battle with the regular season championship, but I think Chase Briscoe will win the war. It's also crazy to think that the only 2 Fords in here are just dominating the whole season. There are only 2 Fords in the Xfinity Series, and they're dominating the whole season. That's just crazy to think about. But yeah, those are my playoff predictions. Like the video and subscribe, and comment down below what your predictions are, what you think about mine. And until next time, peace out.